Hello and welcome to Buildings of Tomorrow. My name is Jon Lester, and today we are talking about the future of the workplace and how do we maintain privacy while still enabling that connectivity that's needed to drive all this exciting stuff around the future workplace. I'm joined by Elisa Rönkä. She is the head of Smart Office in Europe for Siemens Smart Infrastructure. Elisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jon. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Now, we've spoken a little bit before. This is the third episode that we've done together. And we've spoken about the future workplace, and we've spoken about how this connection between the technology that operates the building and some of the other aspects of the environment interacts or can interact with the user and start to deliver some amazing benefits personally, productivity wise, and that feeling of achievement, and also towards the operation and the operator of the business. How do we manage this balance between ensuring the privacy, ensuring the protection of those workers, and still delivering some of these great exciting benefits?
That's a very good question. I think the privacy topic pops up in every single discussion. It's really currently the way the world stands. Employees are still a little bit hesitant to share all of their information, and especially real time, for example, location with their employers, even though they do that in private life. But somehow in the workspace, still a little bit different rules apply in society. And we need to be very mindful of those, because to be honest, if we try to, let's say, jeopardize the feeling of intrusiveness, or jeopardize the kind of the privacy factor and end up with a feeling of intrusiveness, we end up diminishing all the benefits in terms of productivity and satisfaction tenfold. So it's really, it's one of these aspects that requires careful consideration from two perspectives. Of course, there's a regulatory compliance, and I think that part is relatively easy. The modern technology is geared to already have, let's say, by default GDPR compliance and all these factors in them. But then how you actually create that feeling of safety and privacy for the employees in the workspace, that is a more complex issue and needs to always be, let's say, thought about from the cultural perspective of that exact organization and tailored to that change management initiative eventually.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. The last sentence you said there about how it has to be tailored specifically, because it's the culture within that individual company and the people that work for them. Every company has a different demographic who they're going to make those decisions almost subconsciously, whether they're comfortable or not comfortable with this level of sharing.
Exactly. And I think demographics is a great example, because even though we can't make, let's say, broad generalizations on it, but there surely are, let's say, there is a generation that's more open to sharing information, and there is a generation that is maybe less focused on wanting to do that, let's say, from a proactive standpoint. And this opting in kind of feature becomes vital. So it really has to be so that the employees are able to either opt in to share or opt out, and it has to be in the context of no, let's say, hidden pressure behind to opt in, that it's actually a genuine opting in. And I believe that if the employees find value in it, so if they opt in, they actually get something out of it, either this reduction in friction, as we talked about before, or some other additional delight, or be able to communicate better with colleagues, whatever it is. If they find that value in it, then they want to opt in. And I think in a lot of these kind of workplace initiatives, sometimes the problem is that we, for example, focus so much on getting the analytics, so getting that, let's say, management level value out of it, that the employees just don't see the need to opt in. They don't get personally anything out of it, and then you get this resistance and this feeling of intrusiveness and all these negative kind of phenomenon.
The feelings, yeah, and value is this is the in the end is the deciding factor. Like as you mentioned, often cases we already give a lot of this information away in a personal life, whether it's with social media or some of the other applications that we use. And it's interesting, firstly, that there's a difference between work and personal life, but also it's the value. I think we're happy to give up a certain amount. We all know that in the background, these applications are collecting information on what we do and what we where we are or how we behave online. But if we see that perceived value, then we're okay with it. We make that balance ourselves. how is that? Can that even be quantified or understood, or is this a process you have to go through to kind of add a little bit, give a little bit, take away a little bit, or understand, develop that offering for those individual companies?
So I think there it's really about thinking about the use cases. So who is a stakeholder that benefits out of this use case?
Mm-hmm.
And if the stakeholder is not the user, so not the employee, then we need to figure out how can we promote it in a way that still maybe has some additional ripple effects of value for the end user. So I always say, even though coming from a huge technology company, I always say the technology in itself holds zero value, that the value is always generated by the user of that technology. And if you start looking at it from that perspective, then you are closer to, actually defining these kind of value adding use cases that eventually then lead in adoption of that technology. And hence then you get all the analytics and whatever aggregated data you need, but it comes from really being sure that the individual adopts and wants to use that technology. So it's difficult, but it's human psychology in the end. We are all humans, and we can all relate to, let's say, the way that all the employees might be feeling about any technology that's being deployed. And if we kind of look at it from that human empathetic angle, we're already on the right path.
Yeah, you're right. If you take that focus from the very beginning and you understand that you need to deliver this value to justify, let's call it to justify even the rollout of this in the first place, then it gives you a little bit of an indication or a positioning on where you should or shouldn't be. So that's really interesting. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. I think that there's a couple of things we touched there, which I think we need to dive into a little bit more in detail. But as always, the time flies by. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, John.
And thank you to all of you out there having a listen or having a watch via the various podcasts or via YouTube channels. Please feel free to comment, like, or share this episode. Drop us any comments or thoughts or additional topics that you'd like us to talk about. And yeah, please subscribe. Find us on these different channels, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.